Chuka Okafor stepped off the plane with a mixture of excitement and nervous anticipation. After 10 long years in the United States, he was finally back on Nigerian soil. The airport buzzed with life, travelers rushing by, the thick Lagos air wrapping around him like a long-lost embrace. He clutched the handle of his sleek black suitcase, a gift he had bought just for this homecoming. He couldn't stop smiling. He had made it. Years of working odd jobs. Taxi driving in the snow, stacking shelves, sending remittances back home, had finally paid off. He had saved enough, invested wisely, and returned not just as a man, but as a success story. Chuka had envisioned this moment 1,000 times, his wife, Ifunanya, waiting for him at the arrival terminal with their children, now teenagers, probably wearing clothes he'd sent from Macy's. He imagined his son taller now, maybe a little more reserved. His daughter, she must look just like her mother. He had planned to surprise them, but in truth, he hoped they'd surprise him too. But as he scanned the crowd of waiting relatives and cab drivers with signboards, his smile began to fade. There was no one waiting. Not even a text or a missed call on his Nigerian line. Odd. He shrugged it off. Maybe they were waiting for him at home, preparing a grand welcome. Maybe traffic had delayed them. This was Lagos, after all. Chuka got into a cab and gave the driver the address of their last known residence, a modest 3-bedroom apartment in Suralaya he had been paying rent for monthly. He couldn't wait to knock on that door and shout, "Daddy is home." But when they arrived, a cold silence greeted him. The gate was rusted shut. The paint on the building had peeled off. The compound was deserted. A neighbor, an old man with a wrinkled face and milky eyes, sat on a stool by the roadside. Chuka greeted him politely. "Good evening, sir. Please, what happened to the family that used to live here?" "The woman and 2 kids, Ifunanya, my wife." The old man peered at him closely. "You must be Chuka." "Yes. You know me." We know your story," the man replied grimly. "Your wife and children, they haven't lived here in over 2 years." Chuka's heart dropped. "What? Where are they now?" The man sighed. "Last I heard, they were living under the bridge near Ojulegba. Life has not been kind to them." Chuka's legs gave way. He sat on his suitcase, dazed, confused, and crushed. This wasn't the reunion he dreamed of. Something had gone terribly wrong. Chuka barely slept at night. He had checked into a modest hotel in Yoba, but his mind was too restless to appreciate the air-conditioned room or the softness of the bed. His thoughts were with Ifunanya and the children. Homeless. How could that be? He had been sending money every month, without fail. Even when he was eating noodles 3 times a day in the US, he still sent something home. The next morning, Chuka rose early, dressed in simple clothes, and set out to find his family. He took a Kiki Napep tricycle to Ojulegba, the chaotic heart of Lagos where dreams either came alive or died quietly in the dust. The sun was barely up, yet the streets already pulsed with energy. Vendors setting up, early commuters rushing by, and the smell of roasted corn and exhaust fumes mixing in the air. He began asking questions carefully, not wanting to seem like a madman. "Please sir, I'm looking for a woman named Ifunanya. She used to live in Suralaya. She's light-skinned, always ties her hair in scarf. 2 children." Some people waved him off. Others nodded vaguely, but had no useful information. Hours passed. Then, a teenage boy selling pure water pointed toward the corner of the bridge. "Uncle, go check under the express. One woman like that they sleep there with her children. They always read Bible loud in the morning. Chuka's heart raced. That sounded like his Ifunanya. She always clung to her faith, no matter what. He followed the boy's direction and walked down the slope toward the dim underside of the Odulegba Bridge. The noise of traffic overhead made it hard to hear, but soon he saw them, makeshift shelters, small fires, and faces worn by hardship. Then, he saw her. Ifunanya was sitting on a torn mat with a small cooler beside her. She looked thinner, her face darker from sun and stress, but her beauty remained, now shaped by resilience and pain. A boy sat beside her, his head bowed. A girl, maybe 13, was braiding her mother's hair. Chuka froze. His heart squeezed in his chest. She hadn't seen him yet. She was focused on counting the few coins she had made that morning. He wanted to run to her, scoop her and the kids up in his arms, and erase the years of pain in one hug. But he didn't know how to start. How do you say sorry for not being there? How do you explain that you thought you were helping, only to realize you had failed the people you loved most? Just then, his son looked up and noticed him. "Daddy." Ifunanya turned slowly, her eyes wide, unsure if she was seeing a ghost. "Chuka." He nodded, unable to speak, tears threatening to choke him. She stood up slowly, not knowing whether to run, scream, or collapse. And then, the tears came, from all of them. Right there, under the bridge. They stood there for what felt like forever, a family reunited in the most unlikely of places. After the initial wave of emotion, Chuka gently led them out from under the bridge and flagged down a taxi. No words were spoken as they drove back to his hotel. The children clung to him, their eyes wide with a mixture of joy and confusion. Ifunanya sat beside him, stiff, cautious, still unsure if this was real or some cruel illusion. Back in the hotel room, Chuka ordered food, real food, not the biscuits and sachet water they had been surviving on. While they ate, he sat on the edge of the bed, watching them, his heart heavy. Then, slowly, the words began to pour out. "Ifunanya, what happened? I've been sending money every month. 10 years. I never missed." She looked up from her plate, her eyes dull. "At first, the money came," she said. "And I used it well. I paid rent, enrolled the children in school, even started a small tailoring business." "Then why?" She shook her head bitterly. "Your cousin, Chuka. The one you asked me to collect the money from." Chuka blinked. "Yes. I trusted him. He stopped giving me the full amount. At first, it was exchange rate wala. Then, it became silence. I tried to call you, but your number kept saying switched off. I emailed. I wrote letters. Nothing came back." Chuka's face went pale. "I changed numbers when I moved to a new state, but I never imagined he was stealing from you." "Yes. And when I confronted him, he told me if I said a word, he'd lie to you that I was seeing another man." Chuka clenched his fist. He felt sick. "I held on for as long as I could," she continued. "But Lagos is not kind. When rent expired, we were thrown out. My sewing machine was seized. I begged. I did odd jobs. I even hawked sachet water with my children. No family, no help." Tears spilled freely from Chuka's eyes. "I thought I was doing the right thing. Working hard. Sending money. I didn't know," Ifunanya wiped her own tears. "We suffered, Chuka. But I never stopped praying. I told the children their father would return. I just didn't know when, or if. The room went silent again. Then, gently, Chuka got on his knees before her. I'm sorry. I failed you. I failed our children. But I'm here now. I'll make it right if you let me. She stared at him for a moment, then reached out and touched his cheek. You came back. That's a start. The next morning, the sun broke through the curtains of the hotel room, casting a golden glow across the sleeping family. For the first time in years, they slept in warmth, safety, and peace. Chuka woke up early, watching his children sprawled across the bed and his wife curled up in the chair beside them. He felt both guilt and gratitude. He dressed quietly and stepped out to make calls, real calls. First, to a lawyer. Then, to the embassy. And finally, to a real estate agent. Things were going to change. He wasn't going to leave their lives to chance or to family members again. By noon, he returned with a new sense of purpose. Ifyonanya, he said, gently shaking her awake. Get ready. We are going house hunting. She blinked, still adjusting to the reality of his return. House what? Chuka smiled. You think you'll keep staying in this hotel with 3 children? Never. I want you to pick the house yourself. It's your fresh start. Our fresh start. They visited 3 houses that day, all within secure estates. Ifyonanya couldn't stop gasping. The children ran across tiled floors and jumped on sofas. It was overwhelming. But by the 4th house, a 3-bedroom duplex with a little garden in front, she simply stood still, tears in her eyes. This one, she whispered. This feels like home. Chuka smiled. Then it's yours. By the following week, the paperwork was signed. A moving truck pulled up with new furniture. The kids resumed school almost immediately, this time in good schools where they weren't sent home for fees. Ifyonanya found her joy again. She opened a fashion store in a shopping plaza, her long-lost dream. And with Chuka's help, equipped it with everything she needed. As for Chuka, he got a job offer in Nigeria from an international tech company setting up a Lagos branch. No more being thousands of miles away from his family. Each evening, they gathered as a family, to pray, to eat, to laugh. It was a picture that once seemed impossible. But they had made it. Together. Months had passed. The new house was no longer new, it had become a home. Laughter filled its rooms, and the cold silence that once hung between Chuka and Ifyonanya had melted away. But one thing remained, Chuka's unresolved anger toward his family. He had deliberately avoided them since his return. Not a call. Not a word. He needed time to forgive, if forgiveness was even possible. But Ifyonanya, with her new confidence and grace, knew the burden of anger was too heavy for any man to carry forever. Chuka, she said one Saturday afternoon while they were sipping zobo in the garden, you need to see your mother. He froze. Why? She's still your mother. And she's been asking to see you. And the kids. Chuka sighed heavily, staring into his drink. They threw you out. They watched you suffer with 3 kids. And they never lifted a finger. I know, she said. But you're not doing this for them. You're doing it for you. For peace. It took another week. But eventually, he agreed. When they arrived at the family compound, his mother was sitting in the veranda, frailer than he remembered, holding a rosary and muttering prayers. The moment she saw him, she stood up, trembling. Chuka, she whispered. He didn't say a word. Just walked up to her slowly and stood still. She broke down into sobs and clutched him. I was wrong. I thought you would send money like other men. I didn't know you left her with nothing. I didn't know things would get so bad. Behind them, Ifunanya stood with the kids, watching the scene. The children ran to their grandmother. They had missed her too, regardless of the past. Later that day, inside the same sitting room they had once been thrown out of, Chuka sat with his family. He said little. But as his mother cried and his siblings apologized, awkwardly, guiltily, he listened. Forgiveness wouldn't happen in a day. But at least the door had opened. As they drove home that evening, Ifunanya reached for his hand. You did well, she said. He nodded, eyes on the road, heart a little lighter. I'm glad I came home, he finally said. Not just to you, but to myself.